What if one night changed everything and everyone? Welcome back to The Final Couple. Tonight we will be reviewing Coherence, which is a low budget psychological thriller that proves you don't need special effects in a movie to mess with your mind.
Yeah, so this indie flick is going to answer some of the universe's biggest questions. For one, what would you do if you actually met yourself? Also, another question that's, at the same caliber for sure. What if Brendan Fraser was in Roswell instead of Buffy?
Well, first of all, Brendan Fraser was not in Roswell or Buffy. He was in The Mummy. I think you're referring to Nicholas Brendan, and that's a great question. Also, this film in particular gave us a lot to talk about aside for those from those things and had us questioning reality.
Well,
So if you're somebody who likes psychological thrillers, parallel universes, this may be for you.
well, maybe there's another universe where Brendan Fraser was in Buffy and Roswell. But yes, I was talking
That
about
would be a very
I was
interesting
talking about
universe.
Xander, Nicholas Brendan, my mistake. It's another question for the universe.
I think we get it. Yeah. So basically, Coherence starts out as a seemingly normal dinner party amongst friends. This also happens on the same night that a mysterious comet passes overhead, causing some strange and mysterious events to unfold. So when that starts to happen, what turns out to be a awkward dinner party turns into a reality bending nightmare.
Yeah, and I think for me, like the key word for this movie is natural. Um, so this director, obviously, he wanted to make this an indie film, and I think it was definitely by choice. I think he's a well established director. He could definitely do a high budget film if he wanted to, but he wanted to make this raw, and you can definitely tell when you're watching it. It feels like you are just at a dinner party. From what I've researched, he basically just prepped the actors on their characters and was essentially just kind of letting them be
Yeah.
naturally throughout the night. They filmed this in, 3 or 4 days, I believe. And he would even, prep them on the twist right then and there.
Right. So like what I've heard actually is this is pretty much 90% improv, which makes this film seem so real and natural. And it really puts the audience in the perspective of each character, which makes you feel like you're there. When it's uncomfortable, you feel uncomfortable. Also, that the style in which the director is filming is also very unsettling because it's the low budget kind of indie style. It feels very shaky sometimes. Like it just feels like you're looking through the lens of each character when you're participating at the
Almost like
story.
a found footage, not exactly. It has that feel like you're watching.
Right.
And as far as just to go back to the style of movie, which you do not see a lot, an example would be like the Blair Witch Project. That's a movie where there really wasn't a script. They were just kind of given big picture who they are as
I'm
characters,
just going off the
and
cuff.
they're going off the cuff. The director
Yeah.
has things planned that the actors don't know about, so you're getting real raw reactions. So that's just a good example of like
Yeah.
how you're gonna feel during this movie.
But to clarify, it's not just like the Blair Witch. Like we said, it's not necessarily found footage, but the way it's filmed made it feel as if you were there actively participating in this awkward encounter amongst supposed friends. So because of the style of the script, the style of the filming, and also they did a one setting type of film style. So you're really just staying within this house or in this neighborhood during this whole film, which makes the script again or the whole film feel real and the characters relatable. So again, it goes back to feeling like you're actually there, which I really appreciate. This is one of my favorite movies or favorite types of movie. I love indie films and I love anything that makes you feel like you're actually there and participating because it just makes it more terrifying in my opinion.
Well, I was gonna say if you're into indie movies, this is gonna be like your
Up
wet
your
dream
alley.
because like this director has experience. And so sometimes when you watch an indie movie, it's like, man, I really love that you tried and you had no money and you know, maybe it didn't hit or I appreciate it, but this is someone in a group of actors as well to where they really encapsulated that. and they were successful in making this movie, and you can tell it was really a passion project for them. So you get the indie vibe, but you also have a very high caliber of actors and director and everything. And so it's kind of like having your cake and eat it, which with indie movies, with low budget movies, that is not usually the case.
No, yeah, you have to really know what you're going for, and um, really, I would say the chemistry amongst the actors really helped it thrive and shine through, 'cause this could have easily been, something that was not executed well, just based
Very
off it
easily.
looks like one thing was off with either the actors, the film style, the script in itself, even though it's improvised, it could have just threw the whole movie off, but I would say phenomenal job on all fronts.
All right, guys. So from this point forward, there are going to be spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, I would go ahead and turn this video off right now and come back after you watch it.
All right, so we're gonna get into some of our pros, which we've kind of already touched on. Um, I will say what Coherence does really well here is their ability to build tension through subtle plays within the movie, instead of just straight jump scares. So everything's like we've said before, very natural, organic.
Yeah, I think my one of my favorite things that a horror movie or indie movie can do is have one location in one time period. It's like one night.
Yeah,
And when a flick executes that good, to me, that is always going to be awesome. I would say like my number one, like, pro for this movie is just the way that it was directed so naturally on one night. And it just kept you in the tension throughout the entire evening. Thought that was great.
and I would agree with you on that. I love films that have one setting usually. Um, it I don't need all the bells and whistles. I think those things are great in certain films, with this one in particular, utilizing the home that they're in, really helps you to be there. So
I also want to say this.
be there, be present through all of the tension and the drama going on.
The fact that this was such a low budget movie and it was one night, it was basically one house, and it was a successful sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
That's hard to do because most of the time when you're thinking sci-fi, you're thinking effects, you're thinking a
Yes.
convoluted plot and makeup and this and that, and you don't think about it as something that you could do in this format.
Yeah.
And they did that perfectly. I know this is kind of a thriller as well, but it's definitely a sci-fi or maybe even a fantasy movie.
Yeah, I think it's, like, considered a psychological, sci-fi thriller. But yeah, I like you said, I would also agree that usually films like this tend to be very elaborate. Fun fact about this film is that it apparently they only used the budget was $50,000, which is
Insane.
like a very
And there's some bigger
a
actors
car.
in this
Okay.
movie.
Okay,
So
but
I feel like for some of these guys, it had to have been a passion project,
yeah,
which
I
I
could see that.
totally understand.
But I just found that to be really interesting, and I just goes back to what I said originally. You don't need special effects to convey a message like this. This is
Yeah.
yeah.
And just to touch on that, one more thing. So there's a scene in the movie where one of the main guys is, they're knee deep into the multi dimensions, and at this point, they're playing this weird game of cat and mouse with themselves in
Mhm.
another dimension.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the characters goes to like write a note on the door, um, to basically, I forget exactly why, but to tell the people that he thinks messing with him a message,
Yeah.
and he writes the note and he goes to the door to put it on there, and the note is already there and it's already been written by him. So
Mhm.
it's a total shock for him and everyone there. I mean, imagine that, right? Like you're at a house party and like you write a note and then you look at the door and it's already been put there. And the reason that I say that is when I was researching for this movie, the director didn't tell them that he was going to do that.
Oh yeah.
So they were actually like reacting naturally to that scene. And when you and I think I bring that up because that's a good way to understand how they filmed this movie and how they kept it so raw and how good the actors were too, because
Yeah.
they didn't know that was going to happen, but obviously they understand what's going on in the plot of this movie.
Right. So they
And
can react accordingly or in terms of like
Right.
interacting with each other, but still they are still like shocked by
They don't really
certain
have,
things
yeah.
that
And
they
to
were
me,
not
like,
bonding on.
and I didn't know that the first time
Mhm.
we watched it, and then when I did know that and watched it again, I was very impressed. And then you start picking up on little pieces like that throughout the movie, to where it's like, oh man, they were just like improvising a lot of this. And another thing that I thought was, this is kind of just a tidbit, but Nicholas Brendan is in this movie. If you like Buffy, you're gonna enjoy him. He kind of plays himself in a weird way.
Yeah.
But his twin brother is actually in the movie as well, playing, his other
His other
his
self.
other self, and it's very minimal, right? But I just thought that was interesting.
I like that they incorporated that.
Yeah.
That's cool. So another pro for me in this film is, of course, the story, the plot. Um, who doesn't like a good alternate reality, existential thing going on? I mean, I know I do. I love to question what if, like, really happening here? I will say I've watched this a few times and I have changed my theory each time on what's going on, what really happened. So this is a great movie that does that. The way that, again, they incorporated everything, left you guessing a few times. And if you watch it again, it's like you find new stuff. So that's also really cool. That's another cool thing about
Yeah.
this
And
movie.
it's actually unsettling and not in your traditional like horror movie, but it just makes you think of like how like weird and how strange it would be if this was happening to you.
Yeah.
And the fact that like, you know, about halfway through the movie, you're starting to realize that there's different versions from different dimensions that are coming in and out of the house.
Yeah.
So it could be like your wife or your husband that you've known forever, and all of a sudden you look over and they have the glow stick that's different from the original movie.
So basically, in this movie, the big twist here is that that mysterious comet that passes overhead is not just a comet. The comet pretty much opens up a portal to all these infinite possibilities of who you could be in all these different realities. And you later find out through the film that once you've stepped out of your house, pretty much the middle of the street is going to shoot you out in a different reality without you really knowing it. So when you walk back into that house, you are pretty much in a completely different reality that's so subtle, but your people are not your people. Like there's like butterfly effect differences in each reality every time
Yeah.
you've stepped out the front
The
door.
way that I visualized it is like, imagine an endless neighborhood and every single house is just your house.
Yeah.
And so you can't go anywhere. You can't leave to go away to the gas station, whatever. Whenever you leave the house, you're basically going to walk right into another house, the Russian roulette, like you were saying, to another version of yourself, another version of your friends and your everything.
Right. So our main protagonist here, Emily, is who we follow mostly in the film. She has made at the beginning of the film, you realize, or she makes it clear that she's unhappy with her life. She seems pretty down. Her boyfriend is kind of so with her. They have kind of a cold off relationship. So it's kind of just a more depressing version of herself. That's what you're feeling when you're following this character. So throughout the movie, throughout the night, she is helping, of course, her friends figure out what's going on. And when she leaves the house, this is before they figure out that, oh, you're never really going to come back to your original reality. So she leaves the house with Mike. They go back into the house at one point. It's a different reality, or they go to another house and it's a different reality, and they start to realize, yeah, you're never, once you leave that house, it's pretty much free game. Like you're just gonna go and not come back to these original people. So when she realized that, and chaos starts going chaotic in this house that she's currently in, she decides, okay, if that's the case, I'm just gonna go find a reality that I prefer, and that's exactly what she does. So the big part in the movie, the part that everyone's just like, "Okay, what just happened?" is when Emily M finds the reality that works best for her. She decides, I'm going to take this reality, and how I'm going to do it is I'm going to pretty much off myself in this reality. And that's what she essentially does in the bathroom while everyone's doing other things. She follows herself into the bathroom, whacks herself over the head, and yeah, you think that okay, everything's good until she suffers some kind of like migraine where she passes out on the floor and is then taken to the couch, or she awakens on the couch and she's paranoid. She realizes, oh, hey, I'm not in handcuffs. So, something must have gone right. So right now she's kind of paranoid. You as the audience are like, what's going on? What happened to the old M or the original M of this reality? And later on, toward the very, very end of the movie, she heads to her car. This new and improved version of her boyfriend comes out to talk to her, and he gets a mysterious phone call. So some people think that it's her, it's the original her of that reality calling to be like, there's this crazy version of myself that tried to kill me. But it never really tells you in the end that that's what's happened. It just almost makes you think that that's what's happened. But it could have been anything. It could have just been like a spam caller. It could have been anything. So you're trying to, I think that's another part in the movie where you can interpret what happened, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for me, I feel pretty confident it was another version of herself. That's how I feel.
Another version of herself, or the version of herself
The version
tried to off.
that she tried to off, more or less, just because the way he looks at her,
Right.
it seems like it, and that's just my interpretation.
Right.
Anyone can have their own.
But that's what I mean. Like, it alludes to that, but you don't actually know because
Yeah,
he could have answered a phone and looked at her, but not really be looking at her. He could just be like, "Huh, somebody wants to talk about." So I don't know. It could be anything. I just feel like
it could be another.
I've had moments where somebody calls me and says something to me, and I just make a face. I'm always making faces, but again, you don't know because they don't specifically say
It could be another version of himself that fumbled around.
exactly.
So,
Okay, that's an
but
even better way to.
it could be anything, but I guess what what I think of at that situation is just what it would be like to get a phone call from like you, and I'm looking right at you, and then you're talking to me.
It would be
That
really
would be
freaky.
very intense. And another
Like, are
thing,
you playing with me right now?
yeah, like it'd be like a
Well, that's the other
scam
thing.
call.
That's the other thing is like,
AI.
would you immediately make a face like, huh? Or would you be like, okay, you're messing with me?
I don't know, but regardless, let's just say that it was
With
her, and now there's two M's in this reality. How do you deal with that? Because
How do you deal with that?
you go to you, you go to
Well, I
court,
guess
you go to jail.
I mean, and then that's the next thing that your mind will take you to is like, what's the next steps here? But at that point, you would have to go through every detail to prove that this is the right reality. I am the right person. Yeah. It's interesting. It's definitely an interesting concept.
And I also, would you kill yourself if you were in a situation where you cannot go back to your existence, and you can essentially, I guess, just be, a wonder in this world? You could be like a clone of yourself.
Oh, like, I was actually thinking that, like, could she just be wondering and then be like, I'm actually your twin sister?
Yeah, there's some
know?
situations, but that the whole thing with this particular situation is that
Oh.
this is her like dream world. This is where her husband loves her very much. She got that role as the ballet star. She's happy. She watches herself earlier in the film, and she's genuinely happy. And it seems like her friends are also
Just happy. Like, they're all more connected because at the beginning of that film, it is a more of an awkward, almost there's like some animosity there amongst these
it's
so
almost like the
friends
perfect version of everyone
of their yeah, exactly. So what would you do? Please let us know in the comments.
Hopefully, you wouldn't kill yourself.
Well, we're not going to prompt you on that. If you feel like you would kill yourself, please let us know why. I'm very curious. Because it's a very interesting situation. What would you do? You're essentially homeless now because you're in a different reality. How does that even work? Like, There is so many things to think about with this film because, like, how many people are in different realities? Did it just happen to them? You know, was it just in that spot of the neighborhood that this crazy thing is happening? Did that once the morning came, did she just disappear? Did one of them just disappear?
Yeah.
All right, so now we're going to move into the cons, and I will preface by saying that I personally don't have too many issues with this film. This is right up my alley in pretty much every way, but I will say that if you're somebody who likes more flashy, cinematic styles of doing things, or if you're expecting the traditional sci-fi thriller with all the bells and the whistles, this is probably not going to be for you. This is a very dry, natural, organic film. The way it's filmed is very much indie, very much low budge. And if that's not something that you like, you prefer your film style to be more polished, then this will be something that will not fit your taste. So I will
Yeah,
say that.
it just to piggyback off that, there's a low energy to the movie, and it's kind of a slow burn, so it
Yes,
does
I
get
was gonna
more
say
and
that
more
next.
intense, but, yeah, this is a movie where there is just a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of just small talk of friends catching
Right.
up, and that, has its place, it's building to the tension,
Mhm.
but that
But it's a tension builder type of film, so you're not gonna have initial jump scares and this coming out of the walls and all this stuff. It's gonna be very natural, like you're there. So if that's not for
Yeah.
you, I mean, if you're not into that stuff and you want a more traditional styled horror psychological thriller film, you might be bored. It's also a film that you have to watch pretty closely or you will lose track of what's going on.
Yeah, I just thought of this, I don't think there's any music in the movie,
No, there's
which makes it
I mean, there might be some eerie sounds, but yeah, there's really not
yeah, and
a
I
lot of
don't quote
backgrounds.
me on that, but just thinking back, I don't think there's any or much music, and I believe that helps build kind of this authentic tension.
Absolutely, yeah. Which would go in a pro for me, honestly, but mainly for this movie. I will also say that other movies, other horror films that I've seen don't necessarily have to follow the style for me to like it, but it just really worked in this film.
Yeah, so
It
I would
worked in the
basically
film.
agree with everything you said as a con. One thing I will note is this is actually a movie to where the more times I watched it, the more I liked it. So it's actually gone up for me. When I first watched it, I did think it was a little bit dry. I did think
Maybe boring.
a little bit boring, but
That's another thing. This
I
might be boring to some people.
yeah, and you definitely need to be in the right mood for it, right? If it's 2 o'clock at night and you're sleepy and you put this on,
Might just put
you
you
you might
further
go to
into a
sleep.
sleep.
But if you watch it, and you were kind of on the fence about it, but you did enjoy it, I would recommend maybe a couple weeks later,
Watching it
watch it
again.
again and see if your idea of the film goes up.
So Coherence, bottom line, I really love this film. It is a fantastic psychological sci-fi thriller, and is easily rewatchable. It's smart, it's eerie, and it gives you so much to talk about. You could watch it many times and find something new to pick about it.
Yeah, I think that's the hallmark of a good movie is, 1, can you rewatch it? This one definitely can, and 2, is it gonna invoke conversations to have with your friends or your loved ones after the
Mhm.
fact? Because to me, that's kind of the main point that you watch a movie, right? Is so you can reflect and talk about it afterwards. And
At least for me, I know not everybody likes to come up with their own interpretations, but I definitely do. This is what makes this film like at the top for me. It definitely caught me by surprise because I was not expecting this to be a good film. I wasn't expecting it to be a bad film, but it was just one of those films that you stumble upon that you don't really know about, and when you watch it, it just really blows your mind.
it's definitely a hidden gem. I don't hear it come up a lot. Came out
Exactly.
in 2013, so kind of lost in the fuzz there. But I would say, like, my final thoughts on it, I would recommend it. I would probably give it, a 4 out of 5. That would be my rating, and, like I said, every time I watch it, I like it more. So when I first watched it, it was probably more towards 3, 3.5, But who knows? A couple years from now, it might be higher on the list. But I love the fact that it's authentic. The acting is real. You feel like you're there. I love the ideas, the themes, the way the director did it. So for right now, it's a 4 out of 5.
Mhm.
What's your thoughts on it?
My thoughts on it is that I'm going to actually give it a 5 out of 5. It is right up my alley. I've said that maybe 10 times during this this film or this review, but it really is. This is my type of movie. I love psychological thrillers. I love indie films, and I love anything that makes you feel like you're a part of the story. And that also gives you something to talk about. I love to think about things and come up with my own interpretation and theories. So 5 out of 5 for me. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching this. If you love these psychological thrillers, please let me know any good ones out there. I would love to find some new movies to watch and theorize about. Also, if you've seen this movie, let me know what your crazy theories are about this film.
Yeah, no, I would definitely like to know what little signals you guys saw in the movie. Put it in the comments. There's so many little tidbits, and I would love to hear the theories too, because this is a movie that can have endless theories of what happened, what is going to happen, and
What could happen?
what could happen. So
So, yep. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My dogs also thank you.